We are live. We are gonna let everybody get into the room.
Yes.
Let's like and share. It's that time. All right, all right, all right. Well, we want to welcome in everybody to the
Welcome.
throne room.
Welcome, everyone.
Right, right.
Yes, we can't wait to begin today. We already started the show before the show even got started. We in here tearing it up. Shout out to Francine and Melinda. We love you
What's up,
guys.
ladies?
Thank
Yes,
you for
good to have you
joining
back.
us in the space that we have created for us to purge from all of these issues, Lord, and to be able to heal from our wounds and most importantly, find rest so that we can
Yes.
Rest.
transform into that which we have been called and created to become. And y'all all know what that is. That is
Royalty.
Royalty.
royalty. Yes.
All day,
So,
every day.
whew, listen, we got some stuff we bring into the room today, y'all. We gonna talk about it. If you didn't know, we are going to be speaking about falling in love.
Mm.
It's not the falling that we normally think of. We think of we're gonna go and fall into something. Today we are falling in love in a different way. We're gonna be talking about how falling in love doesn't necessarily mean that we're looking out for us, that we're
Mm.
loving on us, and that we are doing the things that actually are good for us. So we're going to deep dive into this conversation today. And as always, we want all of our listeners to participate. So if you have questions, comments, please do not hesitate, y'all. Put y'all little
Yes, yes.
comments in the
Jump
box.
in.
Let us know what you have going on in there. And we look forward to communicating with y'all. Hey, Ma, you over there? You good with all the technology over
She
there? You
logged it.
liking
I
and
She,
don't
share?
know
she
what
liking and
happened
sharing.
here. I don't know what
What
happened.
happened?
I don't know. My thing just blacked out. I'm here, but I'm not here.
You're
Uh-oh.
So
here.
I'm going to
We
another
You
see
here?
you.
device.
We see
You
you.
see
We
me?
see you. Yes, you're good.
I don't know what happened. Well, I can't see you guys.
Well, move your
Well,
mouse around. You all right?
she,
Let's see if it come up. If you want to pop out and pop back in, you can. But we're here.
No. There we
What you
go.
feel?
Isn't that strange, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like
Well,
my
uh-oh.
I like it froze.
it's all good. We still hear you. As we continue on this conversation of falling in love, one thing that I want to say is that um, oftentimes we think that we are supposed to be pursuing certain situations and relationships when we don't necessarily have to. And we forget about who we are and how we are supposed to exist within the relationships that we are in. And the
Mm.
most important one is the relationship that we have with ourselves. So I'm going to start this off by saying, how y'all feel about how you fell in love?
Mm. Go
How
ahead,
we
Jackie.
well. Um, I being a person that fall hard when I fall because I love deeply. So when I fall hard, and I hurt. And a lot of people think
Yeah.
just because I smile and I joke and I'm playful and I don't say nothing, I don't hurt. Those are things that I deal with inside, internally. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, I'm like Jackie. You know what I mean? It's jumping both feet in or don't jump in at all. So love is important to me, but man, can it get you messed up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you find yourselves, at least for me, jumping in and saying, "Hey, let's make this work." And figure it all out as we go along, and sometimes that just doesn't that method gets me in a lot of trouble.
Yes.
Right. What about you, Ma?
Do you know? Can you hear me?
Yep, we
Yes.
can hear you.
I think what happens is I connect to obligation. It's like an obligatory thing. And that gets me in trouble because I feel like obligated. Is that horrible?
Mm.
I'm thinking ball and
Mm.
chain.
You are so
That's
crazy.
terrible.
She said, "Ball and chain. We falling in love. We
I'm
dragging the love along." Jeez.
relationship. I'm,
Woo!
I'm not
Thought I'd jump in.
from the sense of,
Lord.
when you're in a relationship, and I'm talking about all kinds of relationships. I'm not
Yes.
talking about
Absolutely.
whatever relationship that I'm in, whether it's a mother, a sister, in Christ, a grandmother, a wife, whatever, a friend. I feel like I've been tied to you
Mm.
and that I have a
Mm.
responsibility to you. And that's the
Mm.
falling that comes because when I feel that sense of connectedness to you, then the obligation and the weight that comes on me to do First Corinthians 13 kind of love,
Mm.
that agape unconditional kind of love, it kind of says, all right, later for you, Deborah.
Yeah.
What
Mm.
do you owe to this one? You said you love them, then you have a responsibility to and for them. And so that falling for
Mm.
me, so I have to be careful because then it makes me do and move in a way that I'm not always
Yes.
Yeah.
happy about. And
Mm.
sometimes I get mad at myself, mad
Yeah.
if I do it and upset if I don't.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough
Yeah.
place to be, Mom, because you're basically saying I'm going to forego me for the benefits of someone else.
Yeah, you're gonna lose sight of yourself, right?
Right.
Mm.
You
Right.
lose sight of yourself. Yeah. I
But isn't
think
that what
that
that agape is? Because people throw that out there all the time. Agape, agape. Right?
Yeah.
We got whole churches and ministries. Agape.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. That
And
is
that's
true.
that.
That is that godlike love, and in a godlike scenario, it's appropriate.
you so crazy, Ned. No, but
Yes,
I'm
man.
gonna say
Yes. Yes.
wait, but hold on. But let's just take that same thing. Even for in a godlike way, God never lost sight of God's self, right? The
No.
purpose always maintained. And I think that for us, what we often do is we lose sight. We get so caught up and wrapped up into other things and other people that we lose sight of ourselves, of the love for ourselves, and we get off course. And
Of course.
therefore our time is consumed by what other people perceives our time should be, or our mismanagement of our time, and we get off the track of where we've been purposed for. So I think that that's the difference about the agape love that we're talking about and the agape love that people often try to say is
Try to
agape
hang
love.
on
But
that.
didn't
Right.
Jesus didn't he allow himself to be killed? He went to the cross, didn't
That was a purpose.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
That's a purpose.
God's purpose. I said it was purpose filled. God ain't tell me to go and get up on no cross
he?
for
He did
Mr.
it.
So and so, Mr. Handsome over there. You know what I'm saying? He ain't tell me to sacrifice myself like that. But we do it, and I'm gonna do the first. I take the be the first to take the cover off.
All right,
I've
man.
done that in so many different ways in relationships, to the detriment of myself and to the other. I had somebody tell me the other day that my love can ruin a man, that I can love someone to the point that I'm trying to save them, or I'm trying to, I give them an
Mm.
expectation about life, and push them to a place that they're not ready for, they're not able to handle. I can spoil them in a way that makes them think that life is a certain way when that is not the reality
Wow.
of it all,
Mm.
right? And so I have to really look at that. Is that what God willed for me? Is that what God purposed me to do?
Or
No,
for
it
the other.
wasn't.
No, but that
Right.
is often used as a vice. And we have to
Mhm.
understand and set boundaries and parameters, because if we don't set them, ain't nobody else going to set them, especially those that are benefiting off of our love and
Amen.
off of our selfless. So we
Talk
have to
about it.
learn what our assignment is, and then when we've gone beyond our assignment.
Mm,
And
Mm.
that's one thing in these past couple of weeks that I really learned and had to really do a lot of, as the Bible said, let a man examine himself. These
Mm-hmm.
past couple of weeks of healing for me have been really self-examining to say, you know what, you did what God asked you to do.
Mm.
right.
You've given of yourself, you've given of your time and your talent. But when do you take yourself away and replenish and restore yourself? That's love.
Mm,
That's self-love. As opposed to allowing
Mm.
yourself to be burnt out, abused, taken advantage of, and then saying, "Oh, it's agape love." No, no, no. That's stupidity. You have to
right.
understand. There are some things that we are to impart and to give of ourselves. Yes, but when do we understand? When does it stop?
We're not to be
Uh,
Mm.
martyrs.
Ma, you the troublemaker today. I see.
She on the
I
roll
see
today.
Ma's the
She is
troublemaker
in.
today.
She
Okay,
is in
she's
today.
in there.
Yes,
She
yes.
going hard.
Let me
But
ask
you
you.
know what? That's what they would take advantage of, and they would throw that back at you and say, "Hey, I thought you were. Oh, I
Right.
thought you said." And then you'll become a prisoner of your own words, and sometimes you just don't want to say nothing because you don't want to be thrown and used against you.
Right.
That's the fall part of love. Like,
Right.
okay,
Or like Mom was stating earlier, that's that forced obligation that gets put on us when we start feeling obligated now because the person pulls that card on you. He's like, okay, I gotta put that on now because now they're gonna hold me to a different standard, even though they haven't earned it or deserve it.
Yeah.
Or
yes,
that goes back to what Mom said earlier too about. But ain't you a Christian?
Ain't you a
I
Christian?
thought you said you was a
I'm supposed to
Christian,
love
right?
unconditionally. Yeah,
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean to my detriment. That doesn't mean
absolutely.
to the sacrifice of the loving of me. I can't love you as I love myself without first understanding who I am and what I'm here for. Like I can't figure out who I am without you, as you can't figure out who you are without being in community. I'll say that because it doesn't necessarily community doesn't necessarily have to include me. And I think
Mm.
oftentimes we put ourselves in positions and thinking that we have to be certain people's community when we don't. That God will create a community for those people to help them go to the distance that they need to go.
Hmm.
And I think that we need to recognize that. And we need to be able to have the courage enough to identify the fact that it's our own ill thinking, our own traumas, and our own issues that causes us to believe that that's who we are to the person. I had to check myself the
Mm.
other day. The checking of myself was to say, yo, what are you doing? What
Mm.
like this you fighting for this don't got nothing to really do with the other person. It has everything to do with what your insecurities, your issues, and
Yes.
what
There we go.
you're trying to
Mm.
force feed in the entire relationship, and you can't do that. And so I'm grateful for those moments of check yourself, right?
and you
Because
wreck
those are the
yourself.
moments. Right, exactly.
Ex-
The falling in love,
That's
you
right.
wreck yourself,
But see,
girl.
but,
You're wrecking
but
yourself.
That's right.
but what's trapping you is your own mindset and
Hmm.
your own
Yes,
perception of what you want. What you want. And so you're projecting that what you want and trying to, I hate to say it this way, manipulate a situation.
it is
Mm-hmm.
It is.
manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very appropriate word, Mom,
Why you hate to say it? Because it is what it
because
is. We
that's the
calling it
truth.
for what it is.
That's taking the covers off.
Yeah.
That's taking the
Boom.
covers off. We have to look at, and this is something on my sick bed I've been looking at. What was my motive behind a lot of what I
Mm,
did? Was
Mm.
it for the
yes.
affirmation? Was it to be in good with people? Because I could do it anytime I chose to. But then I had to look at what it was costing me. Was it costing me my health?
Mm,
Was it
Hmm.
costing me my time? Was it costing me my finances? and then take a good look at, okay, is this what I bargained for? Is this what I signed up for? And
And
then
why you
Right.
pull
need
myself
this?
away and be willing to give what I wanted to give. And if it wasn't accepted, I'm okay with taking it off the table.
Hmm.
There you go.
And that was part of the falling. Oh, we love you. You're always great when you're giving of yourself. You're always, oh, you're awesome.
Mm.
That
You're
feels
big.
good.
Yeah. And you know what? A person like me, I love that. I love I love
Moments
the
of affirmation. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. So when I no longer needed it, it was like, never mind, I ain't doing it.
Mm.
Whose purpose is it serving? Yours, theirs, or the ultimate goal? Whose purpose is it serving? Because you know what? When we love, love can say no, and love can
Right.
say not now, and love
Hmm.
can say wait. Because we often put ourselves on the back burner, and it's not until we have to take care of ourselves, not till we're forced into a health situation, that we say, okay, now I'm putting myself in the forefront. When you should have been paying yourself some
Mm.
attention and giving yourself some love all the time,
From the
and saying,
beginning.
you know what, this is not good for me right now. I need to detach, or I need to remove this person from my life because you're not fitting my current service purpose right now. You're more of a weight and
Mm.
an aggravation to me right now, and this is not conducive to where I'm going or what I'm doing right now. So understanding yourself enough to know when to let go, because sometimes we hurt more holding on than we would have letting go.
Mm.
Isn't that
That's a
that that
that's
that?
true. That's so true.
Yeah, I think about that, Jackie, because we sometimes we hold on in situations because we are afraid of what we will be and where we would be because we're anticipating a loss.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
again, with that trying to control, and we don't want to
Yep.
experience that loss, and so we try to do things to hold on. And it's a distraction because it's easier for us to deal with the other person and the giving than to say no and then have to deal with what who we are
Hmm.
if we do say no, what the consequence is going to be, to be prepared
Yes.
to deal with it. And
Right.
we don't want to say no because we don't want to deal with that consequence.
Right.
Mm.
We
There's
don't want to
another
walk
side to that
away.
too, Mom. The other side of that coin is that a lot of times, most of us, we find ourselves in a position of nurturing a relationship, and so it's not that we're afraid to let go or deal with the loss. We still have this perception that we can make it better, and so we
Mm.
hang on to relationships longer than we should, or deal with situations longer than we should because we think I'm the medicine. Like I
Mm.
can
Okay,
fix this. I
that's
can
right.
make it better. I can, you know, if I got to try something else, or I
And
got to do
different.
more. I got to give more, and we end up do to our own detriment. We hurt ourselves because we're hanging on to what the writing's already on the wall that we've read it 4 or 5 times, but we still think we can fix it.
Mm.
Yeah,
One
and you
of
know what,
wh-
too, Ned? The thing with is we are keeping the individuals who we are connected to, and that's why I'm not trying to even make this
Mhm.
male female from
Right.
experiencing what they need to experience to get themselves to the next
Mhm.
place. So
Correct.
instead of being a helper and nurturing, we are actually killing that the or preventing what should be, what something could become, or and
Yeah.
Right.
even if that becoming has to be without us.
Right.
You
Right.
see,
Absolutely.
sometimes what they need is for us not to nurture, like Monica was
Yep.
saying. They
Yep.
don't need the situation, doesn't need us to be nurturing. It doesn't need us to help it. It needs us to stand still, loving ourselves in the moment, so that the powers God can work in that situation because
Mhm.
I believe in God. I say that God can do what He does when I get out of the way and be still and know that
That's
He's
right.
God. Then
Right.
allow the situation to move to a place where I never even thought it could. Because see, now I'm projecting what I think is good,
Hmm.
Mm.
even what's good
So,
for me and what's good for the other, when it may necessarily not be what's
Might
best
not
for
be the
any of
case.
us.
Right.
Yes.
so
Yep.
movies, you saying we play God.
Woo.
All the time. So I want to piggyback on that though. You said earlier that we try to hold on because we think we're going to lose something. But oftentimes, and what I'm learning now is that we aren't
Me too.
losing anything, that God might be trying to protect us from something, right? And
Mm.
we're so busy trying to force it. And then we cry about the fact that it's damaging us or harming us or hurting us or causing us pain when there was not a need for us to be connected in the first place. So I think that we often try to, like you said, play God and force things to happen, and they are birthed prematurely, and we can't handle what comes with it because we haven't grown in those spaces. We
Yeah.
still have open wounds somewhere. We still have these things that we haven't dealt with that really need to be dealt with. And for me, in my mind, when I look at that, is to say, well, what causes me to want to nurture and love someone like that? Was I feeling my own lack of love? Like, am
Mm.
I thinking that this is what I need? So I'm going to give them what I believe I need so that they will give
Projecting.
it back to me.
Mhm.
And that is not what ends up happening. So I'm arguing with somebody about them not loving me the way that I love them when they weren't created to love me the way that I love them, right? And
Right.
my expectation that they are to do so is messed up. Let's just get it, like, I'll be real about that, right?
Hmm.
And so we're forcing, manipulating a type of love, a type of relationship, and then we get mad at the fact that it don't show up the way we want it to. How messed up and jacked up is we? We fail hard. We reckon ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Operating in insanity.
Yeah.
But we're projecting on when you do that, and that's with this thing of projecting, we're putting on other people what we think they need.
Mm,
Right.
And we're getting upset with them because they're not giving us what we think they should be giving us. But for them,
mm,
they don't have the capacity, is not fair because they don't have the capacity to even know or do for us what we want
mm.
them to.
That's
And
right.
so we make it their fault when it is really about us not dealing with the fact that maybe some of these expectations that I have for them are not
I'm not
realistic.
right.
And
Yeah.
it's too
Yeah.
heavy for them. And the reason they're crumbling is because I'm putting a weight on them that they were never built to carry.
Mm-mm.
Mm,
Hmm.
mm,
You said something key, Mom. You said something real key that I've learned and is still learning. Everybody does not have the capacity to love you the way you need to be loved.
That's right.
mm,
And you can't look for that in somebody
Mhm.
that don't have that ability because it'd be frustrating. And
mm,
that's the falling piece. We go for somebody and we think we're going to change them. We think we're going to make them. We want to shape them. And at the end of the day, when we don't get what we're looking for, it was never there in the first place. But we
Mhm.
felt that we would, when, like you said, manipulate the situation, change the
Hmm.
situation, and then we're left out, hurt, feeling rejection, feeling
mm,
But
abandonment
it's not
because
their fault.
it's not their fault.
Not at
They
all.
knew, and you knew in the beginning they did not have the capacity. And I've
Hmm.
learned to deal with people where they are, and because I demand a lot of love. I don't ask for much, but I demand a lot of love. But I had to learn that people aren't as generous with love as I am. Everybody's
right.
heart is not the same. Everybody's
Right.
Right.
everybody's love language is not the same. So,
Correct.
in
Yeah.
understanding that is one thing to accept what you can get, but it's another thing to know when it's not meeting what you need,
Right.
and that's where we fall, where
That's
we're
it.
not getting what
Mm.
we need,
Hmm.
and we're opening ourselves to something and expecting it, and it's not ever going to come.
So how do we identify what it is that we need? Because that's easier said than recognizable, right? Like it's saying
But one of the
how.
things I do, and I share this, anybody that has ever gone into a relationship with me, one of the first questions I ask is, "What's your story?" Because I need to know up front what I'm working with because I'm going to tell you how I am and what I like and what I need. And I don't ask for much, which is
Mm,
why it is one thing to know yourself, to know what you need, but a lot of people don't know. A
Mm-mm.
lot of people don't know to the extent of the love that they need.
Hmm.
And they look for it. I say looking for love in all the wrong places. I've been guilty of that. I look for love in sex. I look for love in women. I look for love in men. I look for love in music. I look for love in sports. And I had to realize that, hey, what you're looking for is right inside of you. You got to go within
Right.
yourself first. And
That's
that's
right.
where I had to go back to the drawing board and say, you know what? Cut everybody out of your life because they're not giving you, they don't have the capacity. And you can't be mad and get frustrated and overwhelmed when
Right.
you all the time that ball and chain you connected to your ankle in their
Right.
hand.
Dragging.
There you go with
It
that
Dragging.
ball and
ain't
chain.
gonna ever go
They
work
put
because they
that
don't have
chain.
the
but, but Jackie, sometimes we don't even know we need ourselves.
Right.
Yes,
Yes.
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 That's true. That's true too.
Until
Yes.
we got
And
this,
so
because we'll start telling people, "I need this," and they're trying to give it to us. They're giving it what they thought that we said we needed, and then we change up.
Keep making them force them to go find out and figure out what it is.
figure out the
I
next move.
I I want to just go ahead, Ned. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to, just jump on that what Mom was saying because absolutely, I think a lot of times we're jumping into love, our love language and our love affairs without understanding who we are as individuals. So it's hard to give someone the understanding of how to love me when I don't even know how to love me. And so that's why it's so
Right.
important to get to understand self love. How do I
Right.
feel? What do I feel? Why do I feel the way I feel? And then be able to articulate that to someone else with the hopes that they can understand you.
Yeah.
Because love is a very strange and peculiar language
It
that
is.
sometimes can be misinterpreted in many different ways. And
Yeah.
so being able to understand you helps you be able to, share with somebody else, hey, here's who I am. And then they
Mhm.
can assess, hopefully, yeah, you're a little bit too much for me,
Yeah.
or I can
Right.
manage you.
Yeah. Or you too demanding.
You too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then does that mean that we really need to share our stories with someone? Is it really about the sharing of the story, or is it first about us becoming um it, walking in our journeys towards wholeness that will allow for us to be able to identify the various things that are inadequate per se within us that will cause us to stop and say, I'm not going to put my issues on somebody
Mhm.
else. And
Mm,
that because I come together with them, their love for me is not to, I don't want to say it this way because there is a completion that happens when two people come together. But the love for me is, and I don't believe that it's an addition to, there is a completion, but it's not about them fixing me. Right? It's
No.
right.
about the completion in the process. But I have to first recognize that that's not their issue. That I have to deal with my own stuff. So I have to get me right first and
Mm-hmm.
then think about how do I come into relationship with another. I see your face, Mom. Go ahead. When you have that face, I already know you thinking you're gonna give me another perspective. Go ahead.
No, I'm just dealing with that the part where we grow together. In people say opposites attract, and so there's that diversity and balance and all of that. The part that because people say, "Well, I just love you," and all that other stuff doesn't matter.
Mm,
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden
It
stuff
really does.
starts to matter. We say it doesn't matter because our love can conquer all. You've heard that.
mm.
I
All
just
right.
love you. It'll conquer everything. It'll
Of
fix
course.
it.
All right.
We have such great chemistry in the bedroom. We just have this strong physical attraction. And then, but why can't we move
Has.
ahead?
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Because I know your story. You know mine. Okay. And we've come together because we got this chemistry.
mm.
And now we are saying that we say we are going to move forward and we're going to do this thing. And then, and that's why I said there's a change. Sometimes it's just change and we start to mature and heal because we talk about our journey to wholeness because we meet these people on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start, and is it okay that there is a diversion? Are we to expect it all to go smooth along the way? Do we cut people off because we healed in this one area and they didn't heal. Um, what do we do with that?
Mm.
Mm,
Mm.
that's a good question.
Wow.
If you observe the situation, one thing I've learned, um, we can't force anyone to love us or to give us as we give them. So when you give love of yourself, it's best to give it with no expectation. Because if you don't expect, you won't be disappointed.
Mm.
So when you share, and when I say, when I meet people, I ask their story. I want to hear so I can know and learn how to love you in a way that you understand. Because I can love you in a way that I understand, but it may not be fulfilling or enriching to you.
Correct.
It may be damaging in something that's triggered you in your past.
Mm.
So in sharing that, not being selfish, because we all know how to love in our own way, but is it
Right.
meeting the need of the person that we're loving?
Correct.
Is it enriching the relationship, the lives? And sometimes it's hard to love people because you don't know where to love them at. And it's like you just like
Mm.
Where
double
or
dutch. You
how?
stand there waiting to jump in to show them that you love them, and it's like, "Oh, I'm
Right.
here."
The boat,
And
the
that
current
has
too slow
been,
or too fast.
yes, yes, but and it can be frustrating. It can be too
It
much.
Mm.
is.
So
It is
you have
Yeah.
to
frustrating.
really take a look at why am I doing this and what is the purpose of my love, and is it really being received in a manner in which they can appreciate it,
Hmm.
in a manner in which they
Mm.
can feel that I'm not here to harm them, I'm here to help them and to help them to grow and move on, as well as learning of yourself in the process. Wow, I did not know that I had the ability to love unconditionally till I broke up with somebody and had to be there for them. It was like, after 10 years being together, she and I became friends. She got married twice, and then having to be there, and I was like, I can't be there for her. I love her. But then as time went on, what was my true love?
Hmm.
I had
Mm.
to really go to, like, you know what? I'm gonna be that unconditional friend that no matter what, I'm gonna be here for you. No matter how it may look to everybody on the outside, it's not about them. It's about what you need from me and what I can give you to help you to heal. Because at the same time, I needed to heal. So I'm giving you what you need to heal because somebody gave me what I needed to heal. And if I
Mm.
could just be that for you, then we good. But I had to really learn myself first and learn my ability to love because I thought I couldn't love. After not seeing and
Mm.
receiving a father's love, I never knew that I could love the way that but it took me some bumps and bruises. It took me some, disappointments. And it took me some self-evaluation, like what were you really looking for? And that's how I've learned not to do something for a motive, not to do something just to get somebody's attention, because at the end of the day, I could care less. But to do it with no agenda, no ulterior motive, nothing vested, but just love.
Hmm. I, I want to jump on something you said though, Jackie, which was purpose for why we do it, right? And I think sometimes in our relationships, we jump into relationships without even understanding why we're jumping into them. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And we'll connect the folks because it just seems like, oh man, there's I, I
It's
like their
chemistry.
vibe. Right, the chemistry, the vibe
Yes.
is there. Like they just
Yes,
make
that
me feel
chemistry.
good. But we really don't have a purpose for the relationship.
Other than that.
But then if you're a real person, because there's now a connection of some type, whatever the minor or minute connection may be, we end up pouring all of ourselves out to them and loving them the way that we want to love them. And then we get disappointed and hurt and caught up because we're like, man, they never gave me back what I gave them. When the reality of the situation was you really weren't supposed to be in love with them in the first place because the
Right.
Ah,
connection was just really off of a feeling, a
yes.
vibe, or a chemistry
Mhm.
connection when you really didn't know, like you said, you didn't know their story. You didn't understand why we got to or how we got here, and to ask the questions of what's your story or what's your
Hmm.
intentions?
Yes.
What's
Right.
what are you looking to get out of this connection? What do you want to have
Hmm.
happen from our involvement? Those conversations don't happen enough in our relationships, regardless of the relationship,
That's
whether it's
exactly what I
with a
said. It doesn't
coworker,
matter.
Yes,
whether it's with
Yes.
family members, whether it's with your neighbor. It doesn't
co-worker.
matter whoever it is. we need to start asking those pertinent questions, like what's the intentions of this connection? What are we
Mhm.
doing this for? What's our why?
Yes, yes. Because at the end of the day, you got to guard your heart with all diligence. You
Yes,
have to.
Yep.
You have to.
And that's your responsibility, not the other
Not
person's
nobody
responsibility.
else's.
that's right. So we can't blame them
No.
for what we feel that we're missing and we're not getting.
Correct.
Because we're always in the position of, I'm saying this because I also recognize that people can be trapped in relationships and feel like they
Yeah.
in domestic violence and and abused in different ways and feel compelled to be in situation. But even in that, there's always there is a way. There's some ownership that we have to take, though it may be
Absolutely.
difficult, and
Yep.
that's that loving ourselves. We've fallen. Okay, they
Mm-hmm.
say fallen, I can't get up, but we can. There's a
You
there,
better get up.
Better get
there
up.
there's like but there's and we laugh, but it's not, because people find themselves in those situations. They've invested
Mm,
time,
Mm.
easy.
they've invested finances, they've tied their lives together, and they
All
don't
I know.
know, what am I going to be outside of this? Families tied together and connected. It's like it's more than just to say loving myself. And that's when when we see people say, I'm in a relationship, I'm married, and I'm staying here for the kids, and when the kids are
Mm.
good, then we're gonna we're gonna go
They
our
are separate
separate
ways.
ways, or we have to maintain this look position because I'm supposed to be married and for this position that I'm in, and everything's supposed to appear to be good, and so we go through the motions for so many different reasons. But again, even in that, there is a responsibility that we have to recognize that our, and I add this layer because we talk about it, it's like it's between us and the individual, but there's others who are connected to us and our connections, others who are watching,
Mm.
whose lives are impacted by it, because we're not islands, and we do stuff and connect in ways without recognizing that we're pulling other people, others who
And
know us, families, friends, we're pulling them along this journey with us.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I think that we oftentimes don't understand that the question asking and the looking from this perspective is self love. Like, even what we're doing right now is an expression of self love because we're seeking. And in our seeking, I believe that things become reveal themselves to us. And
Mm-hmm.
so that as long as I say that because I understand the struggle of what it is to say, how do I love myself better while I love someone else? And we could genuinely love someone else who's hurting, right? Or who's
Mm-hmm.
broken, or who's, and they don't recognize it themselves, and it causes us pain. But we have to understand that, again, it's all a process. It's not something that happens overnight. But in our making the attempt to figure it out, that things will be revealed to us in time. And I think one of the things that I really would like for us to kind of talk about is, what are some of those identifying things that we need to see, look out for, or do to ensure that we are doing the work of, investing in ourselves, or doing the work of identifying those things that aren't actually things that would be considered of a self-love action, or nature for ourselves. I don't know if you guys have thought about that, but I'm thinking that that would be a good place to start when we start talking about some of the things that we can do as individuals and then as community, to be able to see ourselves, right, and to be able to update ourselves.
Uh,
We are getting messages that the video is not showing. Are they able to hear us?
Not sure. I mean, it's
I
coming
am.
through on mine.
It's coming through on my end. What we can do is we can try to um, we'll replay it. We'll just rebroadcast it again,
Rebroadcast
and
it later.
it'll be okay. Because I do hear it on my end.
It's
There's some,
on. It's
yeah,
on.
there's some weird things that are happening on my end with like the internet thing. I'm seeing
Yeah.
it flashing everywhere, so I don't know if that is it. But yeah, I'm gonna go back to my question, those identifying factors on both ends of, what are some
Trying to
things that we can
freeze.
see? I'm freezing.
Yes.
Okay. I went back to the last question that I asked about the identifying factors.
Well, I think part of the things that we start recognizing that something's not quite. Um, I, I'm reminded of this book, "The Body Keeps the Score."
Mm.
Mm,
Yes.
When we start feeling uncomfortable, and ill at ease with ourselves, um, our mind starts to play, and I say play tricks on us because we start the feeling, we get these feelings and these vibes, and we're wondering because sometimes these feelings and vibes that we get are from we're bringing from past experiences and are putting them on the current situation.
Hmm.
And so we have to recognize that it may be something that the other person is doing, and then it may not be what the other person is doing. So we need to really start to look at ourselves in the midst of this situation. That's why communication is so important, and having people listen and hear you.
Yes.
Because when you're trying to talk to someone and tell them how that we feel, and I'm going to flip the script, when someone is in a relationship with us and they're trying to tell us how they feel, we need to listen. We need to listen and try to understand what it is that they're saying. Now, that doesn't mean that what they're saying about how they're feeling, their feelings are a result and because of what we're actually doing. It just helps us to understand. I guess that goes back to what you and Ned, Jackie, were saying about the importance of the story, because even that person may not understand why they're feeling that way, but you're just like, what are you talking about? This thing that you're talking about has nothing to do with me and what's going on now, but the unease and dis-ease that they're feeling is as a result of whatever is going awry with them. That's a flag for us, because when those things start to happen, the conversation needs to, our actions, we need to really slow up and not let it go undealt with. That's not to say that we could become contortionists and
right.
twist and bend ourselves all out of shape to deal with the issue, because some of it may be us, but that may be a sign that that's something that they're dealing with, and we may not be able to help them with that.
Mm.
See, that sometimes we have to recognize that too. We can't do anything. We're feeling all whatever, but we can't undo what they're experiencing, and we can't just say that doesn't make sense. That's ridiculous, and that's what we tend to have the tendency to say. But for them, it's real. The feelings are there, and the only thing you could do is try to speak to it, but we still got to love us and not to make ourselves, like I said, to twist ourselves and make
Hmm.
ourselves do stuff that we are uncomfortable with just to make them comfortable with the situation and in the situation. Because we start doing that, we become somebody we're not really, because we're trying to keep them satisfied and please them, and nothing we do seems to make any difference because
Seems
we're
to make
not
sense.
supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
That's key. One of the things you said, not being contortionist, because at times I have found myself bending over backwards and you know,
In every direction possible.
Like
yeah.
that ball that
And at
said
the
trying
end
to
of the
twist it here,
day,
throw it over there.
yeah. And the crazy thing is, at the end of the day, the person I was bending over backwards would say, "Well, I didn't ask you to."
Right?
right.
That's it
Right.
right there.
They
Well,
throw it in your face. Yes.
yes.
You
Yes.
didn't have to do that. I didn't ask you to do that.
Like what?
Exactly. So, and that leaves me and my, as part of my healing journey, I had to really start looking at what I would do and what I would bring, because sometimes you're willing to do something. This is something I had to learn, because when you know what you carry, you want to help everybody. And your heart
Mm,
is big when, especially when you've healed past a point and you can help somebody. But I
Hmm.
had to learn to sit back and wait until they ask me for it.
Wow.
Because
right.
Yeah, I
jumping
did.
to the rescue all the time, I'm not a first responder. And I had to see that.
Really?
Mm,
You,
that's
you've
good.
been living that way. What do you mean you're not? No,
Right.
But that was the mentality because you
that is how
because
we
you know
think.
the ability that you have. Oh, I can help. Oh, I've
Yeah.
been through that. Let me give you advice. No, I've learned to sit back and wait for the opportunity for the person to say, "Well, you've been through X, Y, Z, and I've watched you from afar. How did you do it?"
Right.
That's when you know they're receptive to your help, and you don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to deny yourself
Yeah.
because they came to you, and now you know they're at the stage of readiness. And
Yep.
now the love that you can pour on them by giving them what you've gone through the situation, what you've learned from it to help them get through it, whether they choose to do it or not, is not as overwhelming and weighty because you didn't force yourself.
Right.
You
Right.
waited for the opportunity to come, and then give as much as you're willing to give, but don't give all of yourself. Because at the end of the
Right.
day, you're all you have. What are you going to have left for yourself?
Yep.
Yeah.
And typically, Jackie, when you wait and when you show that level of patience to wait for them to come to you, you won't pour out all of yourself. You'll just give them what they need, and
Right.
then you can step back and feel comfortably.
Because
But
they
when we
told
try to
you.
force feed folks, you find yourself wasting more than you'll ever even pour into them because you're constantly trying to badger them with what you believe is helpful, and they're
But
not
you
receiving
think.
it. It's the baby in the high chair moment. You're studying like putting the food in their mouth, and more of it's getting all over their face, all
Yes,
over the clothes, all over the tray, and none of it's getting in their mouth because you're force
Right.
feeding them something that they're not ready for, or they're not ready to receive or want.
And
But
you
when
upset
they come to
because you
you,
feel they don't appreciate it.
yep. But when you, as you stated, when you walk your journey, when you're walking your path, they see it, and then they can identify with what you've been through, with what they're going through, and then they'll come to you. And
Mm,
that's real love, because you've not what you've done is you've not made yourself available to them in a way that's convenient for you. You've just availed yourself to them when they're ready to come to you. It's
right.
that what's that old adage when they say, you know, the learning starts not when the teacher comes in the room, but when the student
Mm-hmm.
comes in the room.
yes,
You know what I
Right.
mean?
yes,
So
yes.
yeah,
Student has to be
you have
ready.
the lesson in place when they come to the classroom. Now the
They're
learning
ready
starts
when the student is ready.
when the
Yes.
student's ready.
And we've gained so many valuable lessons on our healing journey that we want to share with others.
Yeah,
Sometimes you got to harness it and write it in a book.
yeah.
Yeah. Don't give
That's
unwanted advice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's it. The
They're not
things
going to
that you don't
receive
want
it.
to know.
Because I've learned in my lifetime that when people are ready, and this is where, I've watched my grandmother, great grandmother, my mother, my aunt, all who are
Mm.
pastors, live tireless lives in ministry serving others, and people walk away as if they did nothing and
Mm-hmm.
don't even come back to say thank you. Then to see them dejected and to see
Yeah,
them disappointed.
I've
And my
seen it.
thing is, did they ask you for it?
That's
Who
right.
did you do it for? Because sometimes we do things because we have a need to be needed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And when we have that need to be needed, we overextend ourselves, and then our countenance is gone and disappointed and down because we didn't get the response that we wanted. But at the end of the day, when you know that you're a good person, you have a good heart,
Hmm.
you don't have to force it. You don't have to manipulate the situation. How they say, sit back, it'll come to you. It'll fall right on your lap when the time
Right.
is right.
So true.
That's
So
good.
true.
That's good. Well, guys, as we wrap up and we begin to kind of bring things in, I want to just throw out there what are some of those things that um, we should do again as a community to help um, those who are or may be struggling with loving themselves? What are some things that we as community can do to really help them see themselves in a better space?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Wow.
I'm going to throw out there expectations.
Mm,
Um, this thing about what we project, this projection, what we think somebody should be doing, how we think they should move. Our thought is in a line what we see is their for their best good.
Right.
But we see for their best good. We don't know. There's so much about them and their story that we don't know. There's things that they that we're not privy to because they didn't share it with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're showing up for to us how they think they should be showing up. And
Mm-hmm.
so we put these expectations out there, and when they're moving in a way that's more authentic to who they are, then we get agitated. But that's who they are. And I'm not necessarily saying it's always a bad thing, but even if it's something that's negative, if what our out of our love for them is a redirection, it's like scripture says, speaking the truth in love. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Being able to offer a different way, another source of assistance when they come to us in a certain way, asking us for some things. Maybe we don't give them exactly what they ask for. Maybe because our love for them knows that what they need is for us because we are in tune spiritually.
mm-hmm.
What they need is really something else. Though the fleshly part of us might want to give them and be the rescuer, but our spirit says, no,
Mm.
that's not for
Mm,
you to give. That's not what's needed at this time. Allow them to go and experience this thing. And so what we do is give them grace. So if that's to help them learn to love themselves in a way, teach them to model to be in relationship, in a spirit relationship of their own. I don't know if that's what you're talking to as community. What can we do to help people is recognize the role that we play
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and stay in our lane.
Yes.
Mm,
Whew.
No, we are not
mm,
God for them, and they're not supposed to be God for us. And don't put
mm-hmm.
these undue weights on people to show up in a way that they're not ready for. And we have
Mm-hmm.
to recognize that. And that's part of our healing is to recognize that we're putting too much out there on somebody else.
Right.
Mm. I like that. I
Yes,
like that.
mom covered it.
Yeah. I would add to that being able to learn how to speak the love language. And
Mm.
that means the building upon the communications. I think that I'll say not we, I'll say for me, I think a big part of my own journey had to do with my misunderstanding and my ill perception of what the love language really was, right? And so there's many different languages of love, right? And it shows up in many different forms, and that there's no one size fits all. How do we as a community learn to embrace our individuals, stay in our lanes, right? Our individual languages that we have built expertise in, and be able to bring that to the community as a whole to help us learn how to communicate together in a way that will help us um, journey that much closer to our wholeness, right?
Mm.
But you know, Monica,
To
and I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no,
I
go
think
ahead.
part of what happens is we look for a one size, like we were saying, to stay away from one size fits all. But we were never designed to be everything to
To
everybody,
everyone,
Nope.
yes,
No, we're
and
not.
yeah,
we try to be everything. We can't. We
hmm
have been gifted with certain giftings, and we can only function. Even if see, sometimes your love language might be something, but what if it's not in my capacity to do that and be that for you?
right,
Right.
right,
Because I need healing in that area. And so I
right,
have to recognize that it's okay to
Yep.
go out and get help. I may need somebody to
Mhm.
help me, to show me, to walk with me, to be walk with us in this in relationship. As we're in relationship, we need a support system. And I'm speaking, like we said before, this is not just about our relationships with our significant others. It's about with our
hmm
children, our
Any type
co-workers,
of relationship.
any
hmm
type of relationship.
And
We can't be everything to everybody, and it's wrong to put that pressure on us to say that we have to meet and fulfill all somebody's needs, and it's
yeah,
wrong for them to expect us to. We should put
right,
it
absolutely.
on them, and we should not allow them to place that on us.
yeah,
Amen. Yeah.
I agree
I,
with that.
Yeah, I'll add even to that, mom. I think that because that's a very strong point. Understanding that sometimes even in our not allowing that to happen, we also have to be mindful of sometimes some of those relationships we need to run from. There's
Yeah,
some
Mhm.
relationships that we're not meant to be in connection with.
yeah,
I
Because
think
we're under
sometimes
construction.
yeah.
she's like, listen, this ain't working for me, and so you got to
Jesus.
you got to get
Lord.
away from some folks because of the fact that it's not beneficial for you or
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 for
for
them.
them.
And so you become a detriment to both because you're like, they just give me good energy, or they just fine as all get up,
yeah,
or hey, we attend the same church, so we just gonna stay connected because we fellowship together. No, some folks you just need to be like, you know what? I'm gonna love you from afar.
yeah.
Mm.
That's
I'm
right.
And
with
that's
You
you
ain't
on
gotta
that.
stay
possible.
here.
I'm with you on it. I totally agree. So I'm going to say to that statement, free yourself.
Hmm.
Mm.
Free
There you
yourself from
go.
Yes.
obligation.
There you
Free
go.
yourself
Yeah,
from limitation. We don't
Right.
have love is something you give freely. If you feel obligated, it's not love.
Right.
It's,
Mm.
it's something that you get from the heart. And know when my love just ain't gonna help you. You need more than me. So rather than bring both
Yes.
of us
Yes.
down, I'm gonna free myself
you need more.
and let
Talk about it,
myself
girl.
Mhm.
let you go. And if it's love, you'll come back.
That's it.
That's what they
That's
say,
it.
right?
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
it.
That's so
Yeah.
true. That's
But
true.
isn't that what God did for us and does for us? Like it's
Yeah.
almost like God let us go and we have the free will to do
Free
it. And
will.
and the expectation is that if you really loving the way that you
You'll come
supposed to,
home.
you gonna come home,
Yes.
right? We
That's
Yes.
right.
find our way back the
Yeah.
way the love.
That's right.
Look, the,
That
go ahead, mom, because he said I
I
am
thought
the way,
about
the truth,
was
and the
good.
life.
I like it.
Love.
take
What
my
you thought of?
yoke upon look, take my yoke upon you. And I thought about
Oh
being
my gosh,
go there, no.
I
That's your
can't.
time. That's your time. Woo, yes.
Hilarious. Y'all,
She's
we
good.
appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. If you did not get an opportunity to chill out, we know that there were some tech issues, obviously, that happened with today's show, but we appreciate those who tried to get into the throne room to listen with us. We will restream and broadcast this. Please share. There might have been some issues with copyright, but that's okay. We'll get that all straightened out. Join us next week at 5 p.m. right back in the throne room, this time for Barbershop Conversations. It is
Yes.
back. And so we are excited for our brother as he
Yes.
goes in to the construction site,
Yes.
and he begins to do the work. And so join Brother Ned back here next Wednesday at 5 p.m. for Barbershop Conversations. We
Absolutely.
love y'all, but most importantly, we want you to love yourself.
Yourselves.
Talk to you guys later.
Love you.